Hi, Stefan the BMW DIY guy. This is my review of the brand new second generation AvinUSA 10.25 inch Android touchscreen display. I want to walk through all the top level tiles and show all of the basic functionality that I can show. Now it's not going to be possible to show every single option because as you install different Android apps, you change your navigation, you do other things. Those are definitely some customization that you can do and explore and really customize this display to be what you want it to be, not just what it is out of the box. But everything about this is fantastic. For example, you've got the screen mirroring, so you can mirror your Android or Apple phones. You've got your CarPlay, which in this case I'll demonstrate the high-level Android CarPlay. The backup camera works on both the iDrive and Android side. The sound quality is great from Android, from the music files, from the video files, or anything that you're streaming through the Android side. All in all, what a fantastic upgrade for your car. And even if you stay the majority of your time in your original iDrive screens, it just looks better. It's a better screen than either the 6.5 or 8.8 inch screen that BMW sold originally in your car. So, especially if you're coming from the 6.5, this is a huge upgrade for you and looks like the OEM screens. I mean, I've seen some people that are retrofitting in 5 and 7 series OEM screens into their F series cars, and they're having to cut their dash to do it just for a bigger screen. That doesn't make sense to me at all. This is a fantastic product and it's a fantastic upgrade. Let's go out to the car, walk through it, and show you why you want this in your car. So I'm out in the car and I wanted to do pretty much a walkthrough of every available function that I can and really show the improvements in the second generation of this display. So first of all, I'm looking at the iDrive 6 style top level tiles, and I'll go through the tiles as I go, but this is to make the tiles look much more like the current iDrive 6 UI, and I really like it. I think it looks pretty sharp. So as we go through this, the first one to look at is the music tile. This is going to be your ability to play, and it's playing a sample file right at the moment that came on the display. So this is your ability to install or copy to the device or have it on an SD card here in the side of the display. MP3 files and the like, so you could have your entire collection sitting here and play directly through the UI. And the other thing I want to point out is, hold on. Nice crystal clear Carpenters. I can control through my steering wheel, I can control through my radio dial. It all works perfectly, so that's all really good. And you can, like I said, you can go through what media you have. I don't have extra media on right now with media files, but you can go through and browse through your collection and play local media files, which is really nice. So that includes the SD ports that you have. I have the SD ports hanging out in my glove box, which I'll talk about when I get there. But you'll also see the tile changed as well, demonstrating what file it's currently playing. So that's really ability to play music files natively directly out of the Android level of the UI. Now let's go to navigation. Now what I'm going to show on the navigation side is I currently have the default of the Google Maps installed, so I'm not going to walk through every single function of what Google Maps does, but this gives you the ability to have native navigation. You don't have to worry about updating your maps or getting those sort of things from BMW, which is really kind of an expensive pain, candidly. And here we are looking at the Pacific Northwest. I'm just outside of Seattle. So as we go through this, you can see where we're sitting. So, and Google Maps now has the ability to download maps as well. So you can always do that, or you can use Waze. I really like the Here app for navigation. I'll probably change my association to the Here app here once I finish going through this. But you can have whatever navigation you want. Like I said, you've got your options of going through Google Maps. I'm not going to go through all of those different functions because I'm going to assume that you're familiar with, or you would be familiar with Google Maps. So let me go back home. So you can associate your navigation on where you'd like it to go. Bluetooth, pretty standard Bluetooth functionality. As we look at this, I'm also looking at my iDrive controller as well. My iDrive dial works, and I can select. I can hit play, and it will be playing music directly off my phone. So we've got some angry rock here this morning. So this gives me the ability to control through my phone and play through your normal Bluetooth connectivity. I just paused it off of my phone. You've got all your normal connections where you can have it sync to your phone list. You can dial your phone and do other Bluetooth settings. Pretty standard Bluetooth sync there, but it works very, very well and is a great way to connect your phone. And as we go through this, there's a bunch of different ways. There's really are an amazing array of ways that you can connect your phone to the display. So, native video player, same sort of thing, that you can play video files. So we currently have going, hold on.
They're coming for you.
I'm not the one that needs to watch their back.
So we've got the trailer for Avengers, Winter Soldier, which is pretty cool. Civil War. Helps if I ID it right. And same sort of thing. You can go through and you can look at what your media would be. Here's Fast and the Furious.
Let's get to work. Hey, Roman, you freaking out? No. Yes.
Looks nice and clean. Really, really good setup. Looks fantastic. I like it a lot. And as you can see, I've even got a picture-in-picture as I tile back out. If the video's playing, it will tile back out to a picture-in-picture, which is pretty cool, which allows you to do multiple things at the same time and not interfere with the video that you're playing. Now, when you get to the car side, what we're looking at, so the car info or car side, this is going to be your original iDrive navigation. And I'm not going to go through every single option in your iDrive navigation, simply because the assumption is you know how the iDrive navigation works in your car, or the iDrive side works in your car. But all of that functionality is going to work on your iDrive side as well. So everything that you're used to there, you can use the iDrive navigation. It will work as normal. I still use my iDrive navigation because I paid for like a year of my subscription, so I'm going to use it until it runs out. But here's all of your normal standard iDrive settings. Now, the one thing I wanted to call out here is I hit my reverse, and forgive the beeping here for a second as my radar's freaking out. You can see my garage door opened ever so slightly. So the one thing I wanted to call out there is how much better, at least for me, the video looks on the original side in that backup camera than my original 8.8-inch display. Now, the other thing I want to show out now, since I'm talking about the backup camera here for a second, now the one thing about the first generation that was something that was peculiar about my car, I know there were lots of other people who didn't have problems. It was the only thing that I found I couldn't solve on my car with the setup, was the fact that if I was on the Android side, which like I am now, my backup camera would not cut through. So if I put it in reverse, it wouldn't cut through and overlay the Android side. As you can see, that's resolved, which is fantastic. So the only thing that I found that I couldn't get to work properly with my car and the first generation is now fixed and working perfectly in the second generation. So let's keep looking forward. So car info is going to be your original iDrive side. The only tile I'm not going to demonstrate is the voice assistant. I didn't install the microphone for this display. I really didn't feel like a need for it between the Android Auto and screen syncing and everything else that I do, and voice recognition off my phone and everything else. I just didn't really see a reason to install that. The microphone, so I didn't. So that is the one function I'm not going to demonstrate today. So as I flip forward, one of your tiles is a file manager. It's probably blown out and pretty bright on the screen, but this allows you to go through your files and actually, move files around if you've got a USB or SD card installed, all of those sort of things. This allows you to go through them. Pretty standard functionality of how to browse through what's on your cards and what's in your storage, both local on the display and local on any USB or thumb drives that you add. So I'll back out. That's just how you can manipulate your files. Now, what I do have installed is the forward-facing camera, or DVR. So with the DVR tile, I have the DVR tile and I've got my forward-facing camera. You can see the front wall of my garage, in all of its glory. And you've got all kinds of your functionality. You can set the video to loop. I have a 16 gig micro SD card installed into the side of the camera, which is really kind of nice because you can have it stored directly to an SD card in the side of the camera. So if I want to take it out, I want to do video editing, want to record a track day, whatever that turns out to be, you can do it as I'm sitting here and I'm recording, the front wall of my garage. So I like that a lot. I think it's really cool functionality, and it's a great way to go through and actually record, great days. Now, granted, the front wall of my garage isn't all that exciting, but if you have a track day or a day without your car club or up in the mountains or something similar, this is a great way. This is a fantastic way to record that forward facing without having to mount a camera somewhere, something like that. All right, so next tile is going to be the dashboard. So this is currently a fixed values. And what I mean by fixed values is you cannot change what the gauges are. So the gauges are speed on one side, which obviously I'm sitting still in my garage. My car is currently running, which allows us to show the RPM gauge. But it's kilometers on the left, your RPM on the right. It shows your parking brake status, coolant temperature, and then your fuel, and the fuel gauge also is in liters because it's set to European values right now. There isn't currently a way of changing this. It's going to be what it is. So I'm in the US. This gauge doesn't do as much good for me simply because, I run in miles per hour and I run in gallons and all this, inconvenient sort of thing. So, but the gauge is pretty cool. It allows you to display a little bit more information a little bit more vibrantly, again, maybe if you're doing a track day or something similar. Okay, let's go back to the dashboard as we continue forward. So let's start talking about some of the cool, really cool functions as we go through this here. So the first one is going to be phone link. Now, I found I have the Samsung S8 Plus. The phone link worked a little wonky for me in the first generation. It works beautifully now. So the first time you connect it, you want to be plugged in USB. So I had the USB port and a USB cable plugged into my phone, and I got all of its association and all of that connection done. So now either I can connect through Android. I can use the Android USB or Android Wi-Fi. Well, because in this case I can use the Wi-Fi because I've already set that association through the cable and it knows what it's doing. So as we look at this and we get this connected, this ability to mirror link is actually pretty cool. Okay, so let's demonstrate the phone link. I had to cut the video. My battery on my phone was running a little low. So like I said, I have an Android S8 Plus. I hit the phone link and I've done all the association, so my phone is already connected. So I'm going to do the Android Wi-Fi in this case as we connect to my phone. And as you can see, now it's going to be a little bit small on the display. And you can change orientations on your phone. So for example, if I tipped it sideways and got full screen, but as you can see, it's flipping through my controls and you can screen mirror, which is really kind of cool. So for example, you could do full screen apps, and I'll show you kind of a cool example. As it flips sideways here, I'm going to bring my phone up so you can see. I'm actually launching a game on my phone, and you can control it right through your display. Now, I'm going to say all the normal cautions. Don't be driving, don't be doing anything stupid. But as you can see, it's mirroring it perfectly. And then if I go directly into the screen here, as you can see, the controls actually work, which is pretty cool. So I'm able to mirror what's going on my phone directly on the display. So, and there's a lot of different options there. Like I said, there's so many options. I can't possibly go through every single one simply because there's so many ways you can customize what you're actually doing, right? So, but the phone link works, and I know that it struggled for me a little bit when I was working with it before, and it worked with the Gen 1, and now it works perfectly. Now, so the other thing, while we're on the same theme, let's go ahead and take a look at the Android Auto. So I'm going to plug my phone in. I've got the USB adapter from Avin. Now I'm going to go into the apps. Now the one thing that the phone link app, I didn't set to automatically associate, and I did it on purpose. So I'm going to manually launch it. But as you can see, this is Android Auto being connected through my phone. If you notice, I go here, and I've got Spotify playing music through Android Auto through my car speakers. And it works really, really well. You've got navigation, you've got all your typical Android Auto apps that work, including voice. Start navigation.
Showing results for Haitian.
So I think I misspoke a little bit in that case, and it heard me a little funny, and it's currently trying to route me from Seattle to Haiti, which it's probably not going to like too much, candidly. My example earlier is I was trying to navigate to Seattle. Let me try it again. Stop navigation.
On the website support.google.com, they say, stop navigation. You can stop receiving directions at any time while in navigation mode. Tap the ETA bar or tap stop.
So as you can see, the functions work. You can use your phone functions. You've got it dedicated for music as well. And you can tell it has no problem coming through. So you could use screen mirroring, you could use Bluetooth connectivity, you could use the Android Auto as well to get all these levels of connectivity to your display, to your car speakers and the rest, which is really kind of cool. Android Auto is not a function I've used very much. I will be perfectly candid, but all in all, it's a pretty neat thing to use. So let's look at apps. So the next tile would be the apps tile. Now these are all of your standard Android apps. This allows you to get into a bunch of the applications that are installed, like your browser, Adobe. You could even have it be syncing your email, which I'm not sure I want that on in my car all the time. You also have the forward-facing camera app, which is what also is launched from the tile as well. So, but as we look at the apps, so the other thing you're going to have access to, of course, is the full Play Store. So as you look at Google Play, and there we go. As we look at Google Play, you've got all your normal Google Play Store, and you've got all the functionality there that you can get to, and so you can install things locally as well, not just mirroring them through your phone or whatever whatever choice you want to use there. So lots and lots of different functionality there. All right, so the last tile is the settings tile. Pretty important for getting in, depending on how you want to have this set up for you. A couple of the things I want to point out: navigation. This is where you can change your association of the navigation tile itself. So it's currently set to Google Maps. You can use whatever navigation system that you would like, and it'll associate to the tile. This is how you change that. Language, of course, if you want to change what your default language is for your device. Time. Now, I set mine to original time. Original time for me means that this UI is pulling the time from the Android side directly. The Android side is set to pull it off of the satellites. So I haven't had any issues with my time changing. You can set it to 24-hour if you really want, those sort of things. But this is how you can do those settings. Your audio settings to go through and tweak specifically for your audio, and this is going to be audio from the Android side. This is not going to change audio from the iDrive side, so just make sure to keep that in mind on how it comes through. You also have some advanced sound settings that you can get into and change your bass, mid, and treble, all of those different settings. Now, if you notice that there's a little, essentially the iDrive icon sitting here, and it'll rock through. If you notice, I'm now scrolling through with my iDrive controller as well, because I do get questions on whether the iDrive controller works in these screens, and it does. So there's your audio settings. When you get into your camera settings, this is going to do with forward-facing cameras, surround cameras, your backup cameras, that sort of thing. In my case, I wanted to set to original camera, and that's for my rear backup camera. I don't have the 360 in this car. I don't have an aftermarket, so I set original camera, and now my backup camera will cut through, which is really nicely and really nice, and it'll show properly. You can get into your settings, and these are going to be your Android side of the settings. Now, at this layer, my iDrive controller doesn't work because this is deeper into the Android, so it's all going to be on the touch side. And these are your typical Android setup options that you can get into. I'm not going to go through every single one, but this is how you'd connect your Wi-Fi and all those other options. So, pretty standard stuff. System info. Here's the other thing that also, like I said, is going to be very important once you've installed your display. You needed to get into the factory setup here, because this is how you control a lot of how the display is talking to your car. And if these things aren't set right, it isn't going to work right. So factory setup, the code is 1314. I hit OK. Now, these are the kind of like the OS level settings for a lot of the display of how it talks to your car. The arm setting is really important, and all the options. Now what you can do is, again, this is touch and scroll. You can change whether you have your original car amp, external amp, how your auxiliary switches. Now, I would encourage you to check this in your car. Now, in my car, I don't have to run the auxiliary cable from the auxiliary port on the daughter cable all the way out to my auxiliary port underneath my elbow. In my case, I find that this is what controls it. So I definitely check it in your car as well and see if this allows you to not run the auxiliary cable. The DVR, I had to set to USB DVR because the camera that I'm using, that's a surround, also from Avin, the surround around my mirror, is USB. And instead, I had to switch it to USB DVR and reboot the display for it to see the camera, because it's actually looking for one of those, like RCA style plugs by default, and this is how you switch it. So you can change how your Bluetooth works, whether the Google Play app shows up, and as you get deeper and deeper and deeper here, you can change all of your different settings. For example, if you find that your iDrive controller doesn't work quite right or is acting a little strangely, try it either on iDrive A or iDrive B and check which one's right for you. I found in all cases where someone was complaining that their dial, their iDrive didn't work right for them, if they changed the type, it would solve that problem. We get into deeper settings, and there's actually some Audi settings in here as well. Well, obviously we don't have that. Now, the one thing I wanted to point out in this particular area is the modes. These are the different modes for the screen. Like I said, this is the ID6 or iDrive 6 UI on top. I like it the best. I've also used the previous iDrive 5 style, and you can change and just flip between all of these different options, and you can see which one do you like. Maybe you like the previous ID5, or you like the new ID6, whatever it happens to be. You can make your choices there. I said you can go through all of these different options. Now, the other thing that I wanted to show, for example, with boot logo, if you do want to make a change in some of these screens, when you make one of the selections, you essentially double click on it. So if I go here and I select it, you can see it now says update complete. All right, and the one thing I also wanted to point out in here is the car type. Now, I called this out in my install video. You need to make sure that your car type is set right, and this is so the display understands what type of iDrive information is coming. Did you have the 6.5-inch screen? Did you have the 8.5-inch screen? You can see your different choices here. So for example, I'm in an F32. If I had the 6.5-inch screen, I would have chosen option 1. So F1X, F2X, F3X, so on, so on, so on, 6.5. I had the 8.8 installed, so that's option 9 for me. So as you can see here, option 9, F1X, F2X, so on and so on, 8.8/10.25, because we're going from the 8.8 to the 10.25, and that way it will set up the iDrive screens properly and it'll look properly. So this is really important. So if you're having issues where you feel like it doesn't set up in the screen properly, or it's distorted, or you have other issues, this is how you do it. Now, the other settings that you've got in here, you can update your factory settings. You can do some other things to update this information. You don't need to do this unless you get those files from Avin, so don't worry about it unless they send something out that says, hey, please update your factory settings inside and use the update file. If you don't have that, then don't worry about it. Okay, so I'm going to back out of the settings screen and all the way back out to the top. So that's the last of the big tiles that we have here. And as you can see, there's a lot of different options, and with the CarPlay setup, with the Active Sync setup, where you can actually screen mirror and you can do all these different settings, let alone everything you have on the Android side, or excuse me, from the Android side and also from the iDrive side, you can see the choices that you have as you go through your screens. So if you do have any questions, go ahead and please let me know. I'd be happy to help you in any way that I can. But as you can see, there's a lot of different options in how to set this up. And this is only just the beginning, because you could install different UIs. There's some Android car skins that you can get down from the Play Store. I've seen half a dozen different options that you can get. So maybe you want to use an entirely different UI over the top of all of this, and that's certainly something you could do. But that, again, is going to be your own choice as you set these things up. But all in all, the Generation 2 solved the one issue that I had with my backup camera. It works perfectly now. Again, let me demonstrate, because here I am at the top level Android. I hit my backup. As you can see, as we stare and we hear the beeping as it's staring at my garage door telling me not to back up right at the moment. But you can see it works perfectly. So all in all, the second gen is a huge step forward and solved any lingering problems I have. The UI is responsive and quick. The applications are fantastic. And all in all, this really is a great device. All right, back inside after the review. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer anything that I can. Feel free to leave a comment or question. If you like what you've seen, please click subscribe. It makes a huge difference to me and my channel. I appreciate all of the support, and I look forward to seeing you on my next video.